The heat from the blade is a dull thrum against your leg, but it feels distant compared to the proximity of the woman before you. You shift your weight, the leather of your boots creaking on the polymer floor, and slowly lift your hand. The movement is steady, lacking the explosive violence of your training strikes. Your fingers find a stray, silken strand of silver blonde hair that has escaped Myron's braid during her observation. You gently tuck it behind the curve of her ear, your knuckles grazing the cool skin of her temple. The contrast is sharp. Your hand is calloused and warm from the sword's grip, while she feels like fine porcelain.
You're overstepping the parameters of the audit, Wyndra.
Despite her words, she doesn't pull away. Her eyes, usually so sharp and clinical, soften into a hazy silver as she looks up at you. The aristocratic mask has completely dissolved, leaving something raw and unexpectedly vulnerable in its place. The gold sunburst pin on her chest rises and falls with her quickened breathing.
The data is more interesting when you get close to it. Wouldn't you agree?
A thin, uneven sigh escapes Myron's lips, audible only in the sudden stillness between you. She leans into your touch almost imperceptibly, her hand coming up to rest lightly against your chest, over the gold embroidery of your robe. You can feel the frantic, rhythmic drumming of her heart beneath your palm.
Perhaps. There are certain variables that the curriculum doesn't account for, things that can't be measured by an arty slate.
The cavernous hall feels utterly private, the high vaulted ceilings trapping this moment of quiet electricity between a legacy daughter and a commoner. Myron's hand slides upward, her thumb tracing the line of your collarbone as she waits, her lips parted in a silent invitation. You let the heavy grip of Calamity's anchor slide from your hand, the greatsword leaning precariously against the target array as your focus shifts entirely to the woman in front of you. You reach out, your arm sliding around Myron's narrow waist. The fabric of her training tunic is thin, and you can feel the firm, athletic curve of her body as you pull her firmly against you. The impact is sudden and total. Her breath hitches, a sharp, audible gasp that vanishes into the space between your chests. For a heartbeat, she is rigid, the ingrained instinct of a legacy student to maintain distance, fighting against the raw magnetism of the moment. Then, the tension snaps. Myron collapses into the embrace, her hands clutching at the dark brown fabric of your robes, her fingers digging into your shoulders as if trying to anchor herself against the landslide of her own feelings.
You shouldn't be this reckless, Wyndra. If anyone saw a first-year handling a legacy like this.
She trails off, her head tilting back to look up at you. Her face is flushed, the silver blonde hair you tucked behind her ear spilling forward again as she shivers. The cold rain and ink scent of her is overwhelming now, mixing with the heat of your own skin.
Let them look. I've already overridden the physics engine once this week. I think I can handle one more scandal.
A small, breathless laugh escapes her, her eyes searching yours with a desperate, searching intensity. She isn't managing a variable anymore. She is drowning in one.
You are a catastrophe. A complete and total disaster for my ranking.
Myron's hands slide from your shoulders to the back of your neck, her fingers tangling in your dark brown hair. She pulls you down a fraction, her forehead resting against yours, her lips only a breath away from your own. The training hall is silent, the gold embers of your discarded sword the only light in the dim corner. You do not press the advantage. Instead of closing the final distance for a kiss, you simply tighten your grip around her waist, pulling her chest flush against yours. You bury your face in the crook of her neck, inhaling the sharp, clean scent of her skin, like ozone and expensive stationer's ink, and let out a long, shuddering breath. The frantic energy of the morning's drills begins to dissolve, replaced by the heavy, grounding reality of her weight in your arms. Myron's body, initially tense with the expectation of a more aggressive advance, gradually softens. She lets her forehead rest against your shoulder, her fingers loosening their iron grip on your robes to stroke the fabric of your collar. The silence of the cavernous hall is no longer empty. It is filled with the shared, synchronized rhythm of your breathing, two distinct pulses finding a common tempo.
I spent 18 years learning how to be a perfect calculation. I knew my quanta, my conductance. I knew exactly where I fit in the Institute's architecture.
She pulls back just enough to look up at you, her silver blonde hair messy for the first time since you met her. There is a quiet wonder in her expression, a softness that the ranking board will never see.
Then you arrived, shouting through the sensors and breaking the physics of the trials. You're the only thing here I can't predict, Wyndra. It's terrifying, and I find I don't want to go back to the library.
Then don't. Stay here. Just for a minute.
You hold her there in the dim light of the hall, the amber glow of calamity's anchor at your feet, casting long, flickering shadows against the target arrays. For these few moments, there are no legacy expectations, no commoner struggles, and no rankings, only the heat of another person in a world built on cold measurement. The distant sound of the second morning bell begins to toll, signaling the start of formal classes. The privacy of the training hall is about to end as the main body of students arrives for combat application. Myron straightens her tunic, her fingers lingering on your arm as she prepares to step back into her role as the clinical legacy prodigy. The vibration of the second bell through the polymer floor serves as a sharp reminder of the world outside this circle. You feel Myron begin to withdraw into her institutional shell, her shoulders squaring as she prepares to face the cohort. Before she can fully retreat, you reach down and take her hand. Her fingers are cool, but they tighten reflexively against yours.
Go on then. Put the mask back on. But I'm finding you after the final lecture today. We aren't finished with this audit.
Myron's lips quirk into a genuine, fleeting smile, one that lacks any trace of her usual clinical bite. She gives your hand a final, lingering squeeze before stepping back.
I'll be in the North Archive. It's quiet and the monitors are less intrusive. Don't be late, Wyndra. I have already adjusted my schedule once for you today.
She turns and walks toward the main entrance of the training complex, just as the heavy double doors swing open. A flood of first-year students pours in, their voices a dull roar that shatters the morning's intimacy. Myron passes through them like a ghost, her expression already shifting back to the impenetrable, aristocratic mask of a legacy prodigy. Director Valden enters behind the students, her charcoal jacket buttoned tight. Her sharp eyes sweep the hall, lingering for a second on you as you stand by the target arrays with Calamity's anchor.
To your stations, everyone. Today we move beyond baseline measurements. We begin the work of synchronization.
The hall fills with the sound of steel being drawn and the low hum of activating calibration stations. You are at the center of a growing crowd of students, many of whom are watching you with a mix of awe and suspicion after your performance in the trials. The first formal lesson of combat application is beginning. The cavernous hall is now a sea of burgundy uniforms and the metallic clatter of students unsheathing their matched equipment. You scan the crowd, looking past the taller legacy students and the focused vril practitioners. Near the back, standing by a target array that looks slightly too large for her, you spot Pelvithe. She is squinting at a data slate while juggling a gnarled wooden staff that pulses with a faint, erratic violet light. You weave through the throng, the hilt of Calamity's anchor rising above your shoulder like a dark sail. Pelvithe looks up as you approach, her ink-stained fingers fumbling with her tie as she tries to find a comfortable grip on her weapon.
The director wants us to synchronize. You look like you're still fighting the manual, Pelvith. Want to partner up and see if we can find a rhythm?
Pelvithe's warm brown eyes widen, and she lets out a breath that is half laugh, half sigh of relief. She leans her staff against her shoulder, the violet light dimming to a gentle simmer.
The benchmark himself? I was honestly just hoping someone wouldn't hit me with a kinetic slug while I was still reading the safety warnings.
If you're willing to slow down that landslide output of yours, I'm in.
Pairs identified. Begin the resonance matching drill. One partner channels, the other stabilizes. Switch on my mark.
Pelvithe stands opposite you, her curly hair a bit more wild than it was last night. She raises her staff, the violet ETHERIUM beginning to coil around the wood. Your massive blade is a stark contrast to her slender focus, and the disparity in your quanta ratings is visible as soon as you both begin to draw. You plant your feet on the impact-resistant polymer, the weight of the greatsword shifting as you bring it to a low, ready position. The amber glow of the blade pulses in a slow, steady thrum, reflecting in Pelvithe's wide eyes.
Try to keep up, Pelvith. I'll try not to vibrate your brain again.
Pelvithe snorts, though she grips her staff tighter, the wood creaking under her fingers. Her violet ETHERIUM begins to swirl with more intent, though it remains erratic compared to your dense, pressurized output.
Big words for a man who looked like he was walking through knee-deep mud 10 minutes ago. Just keep that monster of a blade steady.
If you spike your quanta, my staff is going to turn into a very expensive toothpick.
You draw a breath, focusing on the internal flow of your energy. Instead of the crushing kinetic anchor you used in the trials, you attempt a more fluid, rhythmic release. You push ETHERIUM into the hilt of Calamity's anchor, and the air around the blade begins to shimmer with heat. The synchronization drill requires you to broadcast a stable frequency that Pelvithe can latch onto with her own signature. It is a test of conductance, efficiency over raw power. You feel the heavy pendulum pull Myron warned you about, but you fight the urge to override it. You let the amber light bleed out in a soft, constant wave.
Steady, steady. It's like trying to hold on to a lightning bolt. You have way too much baseline, Wyndra.
She taps her staff against the floor, and a violet lattice of energy reaches out to meet your amber glow. The two signatures clash for a moment, a harsh, buzzing sound filling the space between you before they begin to interlace. It's an awkward, vibrating harmony, but it holds.
The Wyndra Pelvith pair. Stabilize your variance. You are fluctuating at the margins. Focus on the resonance, not the volume.
The strain of maintaining such a delicate balance is different from the brute force trials. Your forehead begins to bead with sweat again, not from exertion, but from the intense concentration required to keep your quanta from overwhelming Pelvithe's smaller capacity. She looks like she's trying to solve a complex puzzle while standing in a wind tunnel. The distractions of the training hall, the shouting of other pairs, the metallic clatter of sparring, and even Pelvith's erratic breathing faint into a distant, muffled static as you let your eyelids fall. You withdraw your awareness from the physical weight of calamity's anchor and the floor beneath your feet, diving inward toward the source. In the darkness of your mind, your quanta is a sun. A dense, pressurized sphere of amber heat that wants to expand, to shatter, to dominate. You don't try to crush it today. Instead, you reach for the edges of that sun, smoothing the solar flares into a singular, rotating ring. You visualize the ETHERIUM not as a weapon, but as a deep, resonant hum, a baseline frequency that is constant and unyielding.
Ignore the noise. Feel the anchor.
The link between you and Pelvith suddenly shifts. The buzzing friction between your signatures vanishes, replaced by a smooth, magnetic lock. By ignoring the external world, you've stopped reacting to her fluctuations, providing a granite-steady foundation that her violet energy can finally wrap around.
It stopped shaking. Wyndra, the variance is almost zero. How are you holding it that still?
Excellent stabilization, Wyndra. You've transitioned from commanding the energy to harmonizing with it. Pelvith, maintain that intake.
For several minutes, you exist only as a bridge of light. The heat in your core is manageable, a sustained glow rather than a violent detonation. When the director finally signals the end of the drill, you open your eyes. The violet lattice dissipates, and Pelvith slumps against her staff, looking exhausted but exhilarated.
That was incredible. For a second there, I felt like I actually knew what I was doing. You're a freak of nature, you know that?
The first session of combat application is drawing to a close. Heated skin meets the cool rush of holstering metal amidst a heavy haze of static and victorious shouting. Director Valden is making final notes on her slate, her gaze occasionally drifting back to your station.